At Thanksgiving, my parents mocked me in front of my entire family and called me a family disgrace, but I brought out an envelope that shocked them and left them screaming. My father raised his glass and smiled at everyone except me. "We are proud of all our kids except one," he announced to our Thanksgiving table. The room went quiet for a second, then burst into laughter. My brothers David and Michael smirked. My sister Rebecca covered her mouth, but couldn't hide her smile. My mother simply nodded, like this was just another obvious fact about the world. I sat there, fork frozen halfway to my mouth, feeling the familiar sting. 20 years of being treated like dirt for choosing law enforcement over banking had prepared me for moments like this. But it still hurt every single time. The turkey was getting cold on the fancy plates. Outside the windows of my parents' huge Virginia home, perfect red and orange leaves fell from perfect trees onto the perfect lawn. Everything about the Caldwells was supposed to be perfect. Except me. Lauren couldn't even dress properly for Thanksgiving, my mother added, eyeing my simple blue sweater. The bank offered you such opportunities, dear. More laughter. David's wife whispered something in his ear. I saw my niece watching me with curious eyes. But something was different today. After years of taking their cruel words, I was finally ready. I reached into my purse with steady hands. The envelope was right where I'd put it. White. Ordinary. About to change everything. Speaking of opportunities, I said, my voice calmer than I felt, I brought something to share with the family. I pulled out the manila envelope and dropped it onto the polished wooden table. It landed with a soft thud between the crystal glasses and silver serving spoons. What's this? Another excuse for missing Rebecca's engagement party, my father asked, not even bothering to reach for it. My mother, always curious about anything that might contain gossip, picked it up first. Her perfectly manicured nails broke the seal. Just some work I've been doing, I said. You always ask about my job. I thought you might like to see it. If you've ever been laughed at by the people who should love you most, don't just watch in silence, hit that like button to show you stand against family betrayal. My mother pulled out the first page. It was a bank statement from the Cayman Islands with my father's signature at the bottom. The second page showed wire transfers from the family charity to offshore accounts. The third had photos of my father meeting with men whose faces appeared on FBI most wanted lists. Her face changed so fast it was almost funny. First confusion. Then shock. Then pure fear. Richard, she whispered to my father, her hand shaking. Richard, look at this. My father grabbed the papers. His face turned white, then red, then almost purple. Where did you get these? He hissed, looking around to make sure the kitchen staff couldn't hear. From work, I said. I'm actually quite good at my job. The job you all make fun of. David reached for the papers. What is this? What's going on? I smiled for the first time that evening. Oh, just evidence of money laundering, tax fraud, and connections to organized crime. 20 years of it, actually. All linked to Caldwell banking and the family charity. Rebecca dropped her wine glass. It shattered on the hardwood floor, red liquid spreading like blood. You can't be serious, my mother said, her voice barely audible. Very serious. Serious enough for federal prison, I replied. My father stood up so fast his chair fell backward. You wouldn't dare. We're your family. I looked around the table at their shocked faces. Are you? You've treated me like a stranger for 20 years because I chose to fight crime instead of commit it. My mother started to cry. My father looked like he might hit me. My siblings sat frozen in disbelief. This is a mistake, my father said, trying to sound calm. These documents are fake. I shook my head. They're very real. The FBI has the originals. I've been building this case for 5 years. 5 years. Rebecca whispered. You've been investigating us for 5 years. Family business, I said with a small smile. Isn't that what you always wanted me to join? Their laughter stopped instantly. But my revenge? That was just beginning. The first time my father called me worthless, I was only 12 years old. My name is Lauren Caldwell, I'm 38, and I work as a financial crimes investigator for the government. But back then, I was just a kid who got a B+ in math. Caldwells don't get B's, my father said, tearing up my report card. Caldwells are perfect. What's wrong with you? I remember standing in his home office, surrounded by awards and photos of my father shaking hands with politicians. The family legacy hung heavy on the walls, 3 generations of banking excellence. I tried my best, I said. Your best isn't good enough, he answered. That was the first time I felt it, the cold truth that I would never measure up. Growing up as a Caldwell in Richmond meant growing up with pressure. My brothers were groomed for banking from birth. My sister was expected to marry well and host perfect parties. I was expected to follow the same path. But I was different. I asked questions. I noticed things. When my father's business friends came over, I saw how they passed notes under the table. How they spoke in code. How my mother would send us to bed early when certain people visited. Stop being so nosy, my mother would say. It's not ladylike. By high school, I was already the family disappointment. David was top of his class, headed to Harvard Business School. Michael was the charming one, bringing home friends from wealthy families. Rebecca was voted most popular, dating the son of a senator. Me? I joined the debate team and took forensic science classes. Don't scroll past this if you know what it feels like to be the black sheep. Comment, I understand, below if you've been there. The real break came when I told them I wanted to study criminal justice instead of finance. Absolutely not, my father said at dinner. No daughter of mine is going to waste her time on a government salary when she could join the family business. But I want to help people, I said. Everyone laughed, like I'd told a joke. Banking helps people, my mother said. It builds communities. I didn't say what I was thinking, that I'd seen enough to suspect our family bank wasn't building anything except bigger offshore accounts. I went to college on a scholarship I applied for in secret. When I graduated and took a job with the Financial Crimes Division, my family acted like I'd joined a cult. She's just trying to rebel, they told people at parties. She'll grow out of it. My apartment was embarrassingly small. My clothes were off the rack. My car was practically public transportation. Every family gathering became an exercise in humiliation. They'd talk about vacations to places I couldn't afford, parties I wasn't invited to, and family meetings I was excluded from. It's business, they'd say if I asked. You wouldn't understand. My brothers brought home wives from good families. My sister married a congressman's son. I dated a fellow investigator once, but after one disastrous family dinner where my father questioned him like a suspect, he never came back. You'll die alone, my mother told me after that. Is that what you want? What I wanted was to be accepted for who I was. But year after year, holiday after holiday, I remained the family joke. When I got promoted, no one came to the ceremony. When I won an award for cracking a major fraud case, my father said, "Couldn't you at least catch real criminals instead of businessmen?" I kept showing up at family events, hoping something would change. It never did. Little did they know, being the family outcast gave me the perfect cover to watch them closely, and I was starting to see cracks in their perfect image. The Christmas charity ledger was open on the desk, and what I saw made my blood freeze. It was 5 years ago. I'd been invited to the family Christmas party, a rare occurrence. Probably because my cousin from Europe was visiting, and they needed to pretend we were a normal, loving family. I'd stepped into my father's study to take a phone call away from the noise. That's when I saw it. The ledger was open on his desk, numbers lined up in neat columns. Donation amounts. Recipient organizations. Transfer dates. I shouldn't have looked. But years of training made it automatic. A $500,000 donation to a children's hospital that I knew for a fact had only received $50,000. I'd attended their thank you ceremony through my work connections. A $1.2 million transfer to a disaster relief fund that had publicly thanked the Caldwells for a $200,000 gift. Numbers that didn't add up. Money that vanished. Millions disappearing into accounts with names that were just strings of letters and numbers. My hands started shaking. I took out my phone and quickly snapped photos of the pages. The door handle turned. I slipped my phone away just as my father walked in. "What are you doing in here?" he asked, eyes narrowing. "Just taking a call," I said. "Work never stops." He smirked. "Ah yes, your important government job. Find any parking violators today?" I forced a smile. "Something like that. If you believe people should face justice no matter who they are, prove it. Subscribe now so you don't miss what happens next." That night, I couldn't sleep. The numbers kept flashing in my mind. The Caldwell Family Foundation was one of the most respected charities in Virginia. My parents won awards for their generosity. Politicians praised them. Schools were named after them. It was all a lie. I got out of bed at 3 a.m. and pulled up the photos on my laptop. I started making notes, connecting dots. By morning, I had more questions than answers, but one thing was clear: my family's wealth wasn't just from banking. It was from crime. I stood by my apartment window, watching the sun rise over the city. Everything I'd believed about my family, even the bad parts, was worse than I thought. They weren't just mean. They weren't just snobs. They were criminals hiding behind designer clothes and charity galas. In that moment, I made a decision that would change everything. I would investigate my own family. I would gather evidence. I would build a case so strong that not even their expensive lawyers could break it. It wouldn't be fast. It wouldn't be easy. I'd have to keep playing the role of the family disappointment while secretly working against them. But I would do it. For justice. For truth. And yes, after years of humiliation, for a taste of revenge. That night, staring at those numbers, I made myself a promise. I would bring down the Caldwell empire, even if it meant destroying my own family. My boss thought I was just ambitious. He had no idea I was building a case against my own blood. "Lauren, you're requesting another training course." Director Wilson raised his eyebrows as he looked at my application. "That's your third this year." "I want to specialize in tracking offshore accounts," I said. The Henderson case showed me how much I still need to learn. What I didn't tell him was that the Henderson case used the same money-hiding tricks I'd spotted in my family's records. I needed those skills not just for my job but for my secret mission. For the next 3 years, I lived 2 lives. At work, I was the dedicated investigator climbing the ranks. At family events, I was still the disappointing daughter who couldn't quite fit in. Still in that tiny apartment. My sister Rebecca asked at my niece's birthday party. "You know, Michael could help you qualify for a better mortgage." "I'm comfortable where I am," I said, not mentioning that my tiny apartment was the perfect place to build my case far from family eyes. I spent weekends and late nights tracking money trails. The Caldwell banking group had hundreds of accounts, thousands of transactions. Following the money was like untangling a giant knot: pull one string, find 10 more connected to it. I took more courses. Made friends with FBI agents. Built relationships with prosecutors who specialized in financial crimes. Everyone thought I was just a dedicated professional. No one suspected my true target. Don't just watch someone fight alone, tap that like button to show you support people brave enough to stand up for what's right. While my family vacationed on private islands, I traced the money that paid for those trips to fake companies in countries with no banking laws. While they showed off new cars and jewelry, I connected their spending to missing charity funds. I lived simply. Kept my head down. Let them think I was jealous of their success, when I was actually documenting their crimes. Why do you even bother coming to family events? My brother David asked me after my father's birthday dinner. It's obvious you don't fit in with us. If he only knew how important it was for me to keep watching, to keep gathering information. We're still family, I said. He laughed. Family follows the path, Lauren. You chose to be an outsider. Sometimes I doubted myself. Late at night, surrounded by files and notes, I wondered if I was going too far. They were awful to me, yes, but they were still my family. Was I really ready to send them to prison? Then I'd remember the children's hospital that never got their full donation. The disaster victims who received a fraction of what was promised. The lives affected by my family's greed. After 3 years of gathering evidence, I was ready to test the waters. I needed to see how my family would react when I asked one simple question about their charity work. My mother nearly choked on her wine when I casually mentioned the missing donation records. We were at Sunday dinner, a monthly torture session I endured to maintain my cover. The dining room sparkled with crystal and silver. My father sat at the head of the table, cutting his steak with surgical precision. The perfect moment came when my mother started bragging about the foundation's latest event. The gala raised over $3 million for flood victims, she said, patting her pearls. The governor himself thanked us. I took a small sip of water. That's amazing. Which relief organization handled the distribution? My mother blinked. Global Aid Alliance, I believe. Why do you ask? Just curious, I said. At work, we track major donations to make sure they reach their destinations. Some of the global aid records from last quarter seem to be missing from public filings. The table went quiet. My father's knife stopped mid-cut. What exactly do you mean by missing? He asked, his voice dangerously low. I shrugged, keeping my face innocent. Just that the reported amounts don't match what was announced. I'm sure it's just paperwork delays. My brother Michael laughed too loudly. Since when do you care about the family foundation? You've never even attended a gala. I care about helping people, I said. That's what the foundation is for, right? If you think it takes real courage to question powerful people, even family, let me know I'm not alone. Comment courage below. My father set down his knife. Lauren, your job has made you paranoid. Not everything is a crime to investigate. I never said it was, I answered. Just making conversation. But I was watching them closely. My mother's hand trembled as she reached for her wine. My father's jaw tightened. And most telling of all, my brother David, the numbersman, wouldn't meet my eyes. Maybe we could talk about something else, my sister-in-law suggested. Rebecca, how's the new house coming along? The conversation shifted, but the damage was done. I'd planted the first seed of doubt. Made them wonder what I knew, what I might be looking into. After dinner, my father pulled me aside in the hallway. Your job is making you suspicious of your own family, he said. It's unhealthy. Is it suspicion to ask a simple question? I countered. His eyes narrowed. The foundation is above reproach. We've helped thousands of people. I'm sure you have, I said. On the drive home, I couldn't stop smiling. Their reactions told me everything I needed to know. The nervous glances. The quick change of subject. The way my father felt the need to defend the foundation when I'd barely questioned it. They were hiding something big, and now they were worried I might be getting close to finding it. I saw it in their eyes, a flash of fear. They thought they'd shut me down, but they'd just confirmed everything I suspected. A week after our Sunday dinner conversation about the charity funds, my phone stopped ringing. Usually, my mother called at least once a week to remind me how disappointing I was. Now, silence. I texted my sister-in-law about my niece Emma's birthday party. I'd already bought her a science kit she'd been wanting. "Oh, didn't David tell you? We're keeping it small this year. Just immediate family," she wrote back. Immediate family. I was immediate family. Or at least I used to be. The next day, I noticed a black sedan parked across from my apartment building. The same car appeared outside my office 2 days later. Someone was watching me. At work, things got strange too. Director Wilson called me into his office on Friday afternoon. "Lauren, I had an interesting call yesterday," he said, looking uncomfortable. "Someone from the banking association was asking about your cases. Said they were doing a study on government oversight." My stomach tightened. "What did you tell them?" "Nothing specific. But I thought you should know." He hesitated. "They mentioned your last name. Asked if you were related to Richard Caldwell." The walls were closing in. My family was using their connections to check on me, maybe even pressure my boss. "Just doing my job, sir," I said. He nodded. "You're one of our best. Keep it that way." Walking back to my desk, I felt eyes on me. My coworkers had no idea what I was dealing with. To them, I was just quiet, focused Lauren. They didn't know I was fighting a war against my own family. Don't sit silent while someone faces rejection. Hit that like button to show support for those fighting lonely battles. That weekend, I drove past my parents' house. Usually, there would be several cars in the driveway for their Saturday dinner parties. Today I counted 12 vehicles, including my siblings' cars. They were all there. Without me. I parked down the street and watched the house. Through the big windows, I could see them gathered in the living room. Talking. Gesturing. My father pacing as he often did when making important decisions. They were having a family meeting about me. That night, my brother Michael called. His voice was cold. "Lauren, I'm going to give you some advice as your brother. Drop whatever you think you're doing. Focus on your little government job and stay in your lane." "What am I supposedly doing?" I asked. "Don't play dumb. Dad knows you've been looking into the foundation. He's not happy. I asked one question at dinner. And now you're driving by the house. Spying on us." He paused. "You're making powerful people nervous, Lauren. People who can make your life very difficult." The threat was clear. Back off or face consequences. "Thanks for your concern," I said and hung up. My hands were shaking, but not from fear. From determination. They were scared enough to watch me, threaten me, and cut me off from the family even more than before. They thought isolation would break me. Instead, it freed me to make my biggest move yet. The federal prosecutor's eyes widened as I spread the evidence across his desk. "You realize this is your family we're talking about?" Assistant U.S. Attorney James Harmon was known for taking down white-collar criminals. His office walls were covered with news clippings of handcuffed executives and politicians. Today, I was asking him to add my family's photos to his collection. "I know exactly who they are," I said. "That's why I'm here." I'd spent weeks organizing my evidence. Bank statements showing money flowing from charity donations to offshore accounts. Photos of my father meeting with known criminals. Tax documents with clear fraud. Email exchanges about cleaning money through the foundation. 3 states, Harmon muttered, flipping through the files. Connections to organized crime. Money laundering through charitable donations. How long have you been gathering this? 5 years. He looked up sharply. You've been investigating your own family for 5 years without them knowing. I nodded. They thought I was just the family failure. It made me invisible to them. Perfect for watching what they were doing. Harmon walked to his window, hands in his pockets. This is a major case, Lauren. Your father is friends with senators. Your brother plays golf with the governor. Going after them will make enemies. Are they above the law? I asked. He turned back, a small smile forming. No one is. But I need to know you're prepared for what comes next. This will destroy your family. There's no coming back from this. They destroyed our family years ago, I said. I'm just bringing their crimes to light. If you believe family ties don't excuse criminal behavior, prove it. Share this story so others know what real integrity looks like. For the next 3 weeks, I worked closely with Harmon and the FBI. More agents were brought in. Financial experts. Computer forensics teams. They were amazed at how complete my case was. Most whistleblowers bring suspicions, an FBI agent told me. You brought us a ready-to-file case. While the legal wheels turned, I kept up appearances. I sent my mother a birthday card. I emailed my sister about her new house. I acted normal while the trap closed around my family. We'll be ready to move after Thanksgiving, Harmon told me during our final meeting. Multiple coordinated arrests, search warrants for homes and offices, asset freezes. I want to confront them first, I said. Harmon frowned. That's not how we usually operate. I've earned this moment, I insisted. Let me face them at Thanksgiving dinner. Once I show them what I know, you can come in. He studied me for a long moment. You want closure? I want them to know it was me. That the daughter they rejected was the one who brought them down. After some discussion, we worked out a plan. I would go to Thanksgiving dinner with copies of key evidence. Agents would be nearby, ready to move in. I would wear a wire to record any confessions or threats. Be careful, Harmon warned. People do desperate things when cornered. I nodded. I've been careful for 5 years. One more day won't be hard. As I left his office, I felt strangely calm. The storm I'd been building for years was about to break. Lives would be destroyed, including what remained of my relationship with my family. But justice would finally be served. The warrant was signed. The teams were ready. All that remained was for me to face my family one last time, across the Thanksgiving table. The night before Thanksgiving, I sat alone in my apartment and cried for the family I never really had. Rain pattered against my windows as I spread old photos across my coffee table. Birthday parties from when I was too young to notice the family politics. Christmas mornings before I understood that the perfect family photos were just for show. In one picture, my father was teaching me to ride a bike. His hands were steady on the seat, his smile genuine. In another, my mother was brushing my hair before my first day of school, her face soft with pride. Had those moments been real? Or was I seeing what I wanted to see? I picked up a family portrait from when I was 16. We were all dressed in matching outfits, standing on the steps of our beach house. Everyone smiling. Everyone together. It was taken just weeks before I announced I wanted to study criminal justice instead of business. The last photo before everything changed. Was there ever a chance for us? I whispered to the smiling faces. I thought about calling the whole thing off. I could phone Harmon right now and tell him I'd changed my mind. We could still arrest them, but I wouldn't have to be there, wouldn't have to see their faces when they realized what I'd done. I could walk away, move to another city, start over. But then what? The Caldwells would keep stealing. Keep using charity money to buy yachts and jewelry while pretending to help people. Keep hurting others. I opened my laptop and looked at files I hadn't included in the evidence. Photos of hospital wings that were never built because the money vanished. Reports of disaster victims who received a fraction of the aid promised. Real people hurt by my family's greed. Don't pretend doing the right thing is easy. If you've ever had to make a painful choice, let me know I'm not alone with a comment below. I closed the laptop and went to my closet. Inside was the outfit I'd chosen for tomorrow, simple black pants, a blue sweater. Nothing fancy. Nothing that screamed, "I'm about to destroy your lives." My phone buzzed with a text from my mother, "Dinner at 5. Do try to dress appropriately for once." Even now, the criticism. Even now, the judgment. I ran my fingers over the small recording device I would wear tomorrow. Such a tiny thing to bring down an empire. Was I doing this for justice? Or revenge? After years of being hurt, was I just hurting them back? No. This wasn't about my feelings. This was about laws broken, people harmed, trust betrayed. If they were strangers, I would still be building this case. But they weren't strangers. They were the people who should have loved me but chose to reject me instead. I put the photos back in their box. Whatever real family moments we might have had were long gone. Tomorrow wasn't about the past. It was about the future. About making things right. I got ready for bed, setting my alarm early. I would need time to prepare, to steady myself. To become the version of Lauren who could face her family one last time, and not break. As I drifted off to sleep, a memory came to me, my father teaching me to play chess when I was 9. Always think 3 moves ahead, he'd said. That's how you win. I'd been thinking ahead for 5 years. Tomorrow would be checkmate. I fell asleep clutching the envelope that would destroy my family. When I woke up, it was Thanksgiving Day. My hand shook as I pressed record on the hidden device before entering my parents' house. The morning had passed in a blur. A final call with Harmon. A text confirming FBI agents were in position nearby. A last check of the envelope I'd prepared. Now I stood on my parents' doorstep, finger on the doorbell. Through the decorative glass, I could see movement inside. Family arriving. Staff setting up. Normal Thanksgiving preparations. Nothing would be normal after today. I rang the bell. A maid I didn't recognize opened the door. "Ms. Caldwell," she said. "Your family is in the living room." I stepped inside, instantly surrounded by the smell of turkey and pumpkin pie. The house looked perfect as always, fresh flowers, polished floors, family photos arranged just so. Photos that would soon be evidence in a criminal case. My mother spotted me first. She wore a designer dress and a tight smile. "Lauren. You're on time for once." Her eyes scanned my outfit with clear disapproval. "I see you ignored my suggestion about dressing appropriately." "Happy Thanksgiving to you too, Mom," I said. My father stood by the fireplace, drink in hand, talking to my brothers. He nodded briefly in my direction, but didn't break his conversation. My sister Rebecca waved from across the room, where she sat with her congressman husband. I felt the weight of the recording device against my skin. The envelope seemed to burn in my purse. "Wine?" A server appeared with a tray of glasses. "No, thanks. Water is fine." I needed a clear head for what was coming. If you think the truth deserves to be heard no matter how powerful the liars are, show your support, hit that like button now. As I moved through the room, I caught bits of conversation. Business deals. Political connections. Vacation plans. The normal talk of rich, powerful people who thought rules didn't apply to them. My brother David cornered me by the appetizer table. "I'm surprised you came," he said quietly. "It's Thanksgiving. Family time." I kept my voice neutral. After Michael's call, most people would take the hint. I met his eyes. I've never been good at taking hints. His jaw tightened. "Whatever you think you know, whatever you're doing, it's not too late to stop." "Is that concern for me or for yourself?" I asked. Before he could answer, my father called everyone to the dining room. It was time for dinner. As we walked toward the long table covered in fine china and crystal, I felt strangely detached. Like I was watching myself in a movie. The loyal daughter about to reveal herself as the secret agent. I checked my watch. In less than an hour, this house would be swarming with federal agents. My family would be in handcuffs. Everything they'd built would crumble. And I would be the one who brought it all down. I took my assigned seat, at the far end of the table, as usual. The family disappointment, placed where I would be least noticed. I stepped through the front door into my parents' perfect home, knowing it was the last time I'd enter as their daughter. My mother kissed my cheek and whispered, "You could have at least worn something nicer," not knowing I had a wire under my discount store sweater. We sat around the massive dining table, a Caldwell family tradition going back generations. Crystal glasses caught the light from the chandelier. Silver serving dishes gleamed. Everything looked perfect, just as my mother had planned. I watched them all with new eyes. My father at the head of the table, commanding attention with every gesture. My brother David, the numbersman, checking his phone under the table, probably watching stock prices even on Thanksgiving. Michael, the charming one, telling a story that made everyone laugh. Rebecca and her husband, the perfect political couple, smiling and nodding at all the right moments. They looked like the ideal American family. Successful. Happy. United. Only I knew the truth. David's bank just acquired Pacific Trust, my father announced proudly. Biggest deal of the quarter. "Congratulations," I said, knowing from my investigation that Pacific Trust was another vehicle for their money laundering. "Michael's firm is handling security for the governor's inauguration," my mother added. "Such an honor." I nodded, not mentioning that Michael's security firm was how they transported cash across state lines without questions. Rebecca's husband cleared his throat. "We've got some news too. The Caldwell Family Foundation has been nominated for the National Philanthropy Award." Everyone clapped. I forced my hands together a few times, feeling sick. The foundation that stole millions being celebrated for giving away thousands. "Lauren, anything new with you?" my sister asked, almost as an afterthought. All eyes turned to me. This was my opening. "Actually, yes. I'm working on the biggest case of my career." Don't let appearances fool you. If you've ever seen through someone's fake perfect life, comment "I see you" below. My father looked bored. "Another tax cheat." "Much bigger," I said. "A crime family that's been operating for decades. Money laundering, fraud, connections to organized crime." David's fork paused halfway to his mouth. "Sounds dangerous." "It is," I agreed. "They think they're untouchable because they have money and connections. They hide behind charities and respectable businesses." The table got quieter. My mother took a large sip of wine. "These people hurt others and sleep well at night," I continued. "They think rules don't apply to them." "Enough shop talk," my father cut in. "It's Thanksgiving." My mother jumped in. "Rebecca, tell everyone about your new beach house." Rebecca launched into a story about ocean views and custom cabinets. I listened, knowing that beach house was bought with stolen charity funds meant for hurricane victims. The meal continued. Turkey was served. Compliments to the chef. Small talk about weather and politics. Normal family dinner conversation with the FBI waiting outside. I checked the time. 20 minutes until Harmon had said they would move in. I needed to make my move before then. I wanted my moment. My father stood, raising his glass for the annual Thanksgiving toast. This was it. Another successful year for the Caldwells, he began, smiling at everyone around the table. David's acquisition. Michael's government contracts. Rebecca's foundation work. We have much to be thankful for. He paused, his eyes passing over me like I wasn't there. We are proud of all our kids, he continued, then added with a smirk, except one. The table erupted in laughter. The familiar pain stabbed at my heart, but this time, it gave me strength. As my father stood to make his annual toast, I felt the envelope heavy in my purse. The moment I'd planned for 5 years was seconds away. Everyone laughed when my father said they were proud of all their kids except one. They didn't realize I was about to become their worst nightmare. The laughter stung, but I used the pain. I'd been saving it up for years, like money in a bank. Now it was time to spend it all. I reached into my purse while the laughter was still echoing off the dining room walls. The envelope felt heavy in my hands. 5 years of work. Countless nights alone. All leading to this moment. Before you laugh any more, I said, my voice surprisingly steady, you might want to look at this. I dropped the envelope onto the table between the turkey and the cranberry sauce. It landed with a soft thud that somehow silenced the room. What's this? My father asked, annoyance clear in his voice. Another complaint about being left out. My mother reached for the envelope first. Always curious, always needing to know everything. Just some family business, I said, using their favorite phrase. If you think no one should get away with cruelty just because they're family, don't just watch, subscribe now to see justice served. She pulled out the first page. Her perfectly made-up face changed as she scanned the document. Her hand flew to her throat, clutching her pearls. Richard, she whispered, passing the paper to my father. Look at this. My father snatched it from her hand. His face turned red as he read, then white when he flipped to the next page. Where did you get these? He demanded, voice shaking with rage. I've been collecting them for 5 years, I said. Every transfer, every fake charity, every offshore account. It's all there. My siblings looked confused. Rebecca reached for the papers. What's going on? She asked. Our baby sister has been playing detective, my father said, trying to sound calm but failing. She thinks she's found something wrong with the family business. Not thinks, I corrected. Knows. $300 million stolen from charities. Tax fraud going back 15 years. Connections to crime families in New York, Miami, and Chicago. It's all documented. David stood up so fast his chair fell backward. This is insane. You're making this up. The Cayman Islands account in your name, I said calmly. The one that received $10 million meant for hurricane victims last year. Was I making that up too? His face went slack. Michael jumped in, always the fixer. Lauren, whatever you think you found, there are explanations. Business is complicated. Taxes, international banking, you don't understand how it works. I understand perfectly, I said. I've been trained to understand it. That's why you've all been making fun of my career for 20 years. Because deep down, you were afraid of exactly this moment. My mother started to cry, but I knew her tears. They appeared whenever she needed sympathy. We're your family, she sobbed. How could you do this to us? How could you do this to me? I fired back. 20 years of treating me like dirt. Making me feel worthless because I didn't join the family business. Because I chose to help people instead of steal from them. My father slammed his fist on the table, making the glasses jump. Enough. Whatever you think you have, it won't stand up. We have lawyers. We have friends in high places. So do I said. The U.S. Attorney's Office. The FBI. The IRS. They've all seen these documents. The color drained from his face. You went to the authorities? 3 weeks ago, I said. They've verified everything. Rebecca's husband stood up. I need to make a call. Sit down, I ordered. No one's making any calls. You can't tell me what to do, he snapped. Actually, I can. There are federal agents outside right now. This house is surrounded. Your phones and computers are about to be seized as evidence. Panic spread across the table. My family, always so perfect, always so in control, was falling apart before my eyes. My father recovered first. His face hardened as he looked at me with pure hatred. You ungrateful little, he started. Careful, I interrupted. Everything you say is being recorded. I tapped my chest where the wire was hidden. He lunged across the table, knocking over glasses and plates. Give me that. David grabbed his arm. Dad, stop. Don't make it worse. My father struggled against him. She's destroying everything we built. Everything. You built it on lies, I said. On stolen money. On other people's suffering. He broke free from David and pointed a shaking finger at me. I'll kill you for this. I swear to God, my father lunged for the envelope, but froze when I said 7 simple words. The FBI has all the originals already, Dad. My perfect brother started crying. My father threatened to kill me. My mother fainted right into the mashed potatoes. The dining room exploded into chaos. My father kept shouting threats while David and Michael held him back. Rebecca screamed at me, calling me a traitor. Her husband was frantically dialing his phone despite my warning. And through it all, I sat calmly, watching 20 years of family lies crumble around me. You're dead to us, Michael hissed. You understand that? Dead. I've been dead to you for years, I replied. The only difference is now you're going to pay for how you treated me. My mother recovered from her fainting spell, mashed potatoes still in her hair. Lauren, please. We can fix this. Whatever you want, money, a position at the bank, a new house, it's yours. I don't want your stolen money, I said. I want justice. Rebecca's husband finally got through to someone on his phone. It's an emergency, he was saying. The Caldwells are being. The call cut off mid-sentence. The cell service had been blocked, just as Harmon had promised. What's happening? Rebecca asked, panic in her voice. Federal agents are blocking all communications from this house, I explained. Standard procedure in major fraud cases. My father collapsed into his chair, suddenly looking older than his 60 years. You have no idea what you've done, he said quietly. No idea who you're messing with. I know exactly who I'm dealing with, I replied. I've watched you my whole life. Don't just watch silently. If you believe everyone should face consequences for their actions, hit that like button right now. He leaned forward. I'm not talking about us. I'm talking about the people we work with. People who don't forgive betrayal. People who will find you wherever you go. A chill ran through me. I knew from my investigation that my family had connections to organized crime, but my father's words confirmed how deep those connections went. Are you threatening me with your criminal friends? I asked. I'm trying to save your life, he said, his voice suddenly desperate. These people don't care that you're my daughter. If you bring down this operation, they'll come for you. For the first time, I saw real fear in my father's eyes. Not fear of prison, fear for me. It was the most fatherly thing he'd done in 20 years. "I've already been placed in witness protection," I lied, watching his reaction. "New name. New location. I'll disappear after today." Relief flashed across his face before anger replaced it. "Always the smart one," he muttered. David, always calculating, tried a different approach. "Lauren, think about what this will do to the family name. To our children. Your nieces and nephews will grow up with this shame. You should have thought about them before you stole from sick kids and disaster victims," I said. "We made mistakes," Michael jumped in. "But the foundation has helped thousands of people. With the small percentage you didn't steal," I countered. My mother, now fully recovered, tried one last time. "Lauren, whatever we did to hurt you, we're sorry. We can change. We can be a real family." For a moment, just a moment, I felt a crack in my resolve. The lonely little girl inside me, who just wanted her family's love, stirred with hope. Then I remembered all the cruel words. All the missed birthdays. All the times they made me feel worthless. And I remembered the evidence, the millions stolen, the lives affected, the cold calculation of it all. "It's too late for sorry," I said. My father reached for his phone. "I'm calling our lawyer." "Your lawyer was arrested an hour ago," I said. "Along with your accountant and the bank's vice president. The FBI has been busy today." His face went pale. "This is really happening?" "Yes, it is." Outside, car doors slammed. Footsteps approached the house. My family froze, listening to the sound of their world ending. Rebecca started crying. "I have children, Lauren. What will happen to them?" "They'll have a mother who serves her time, and hopefully becomes a better person," I said. The doorbell rang. Then came a loud knock. "FBI. Open the door." The doorbell rang. "That would be the federal agents," I said, standing up from the table. "Happy Thanksgiving." The neighbors came out to watch as my family was led away in handcuffs, the perfect Caldwells finally exposed for what they really were. FBI agents flooded the house, reading rights, securing evidence, taking control with practiced efficiency. My family was separated, each taken to a different vehicle. My father went first, head down, avoiding the neighbors' stares. My mother followed, still asking for her lawyer. My brothers, silent and shocked. My sister and her husband, both crying quietly. I stood on the front steps, watching it all happen. Agent Torres, the lead FBI investigator, stood beside me. "You did good work, Caldwell," he said. "One of the most complete cases I've ever seen." "Thank you," I replied, feeling empty instead of triumphant. News vans were already arriving. The fall of one of Virginia's most prominent families would be the top story tonight. Reporters shouted questions as my family was placed in separate cars. "Ms. Caldwell, did you help bring down your own family?" "Lauren. Over here. How long have you been working with the FBI?" I turned away from the cameras. This wasn't about fame or headlines for me. Inside, other agents were boxing up computers, files, and phones. The fancy Thanksgiving dinner sat abandoned on the table, food growing cold. The perfect family portrait on the wall seemed to mock the chaos below it. If you believe justice matters more than money or status, prove it. Share this video so others know that no one is above the law. As I gathered my purse to leave, my youngest brother Michael was brought back through the foyer, escorted by 2 agents. They were taking him upstairs to show them where certain files were kept. Our eyes met across the room. For a moment, I saw not the arrogant banker but the little brother who once asked me to help him build a fort in the backyard. "Why?" he asked simply. I could have listed all their crimes. I could have reminded him of how they'd treated me. Instead, I gave him the simplest truth. Because wrong is wrong, even when it's family. He looked away, but nodded slightly before being led upstairs. Outside, my father was about to be placed in a car when he called out to me. The agents paused, looking to me for guidance. I nodded and walked over. "This isn't over," he said, his voice low. "You have no idea what you've started." "It's over, Dad," I said. "The accounts are frozen. The evidence is solid. Your friends are being rounded up too." Fear flashed in his eyes. "Lauren, listen to me. There are people involved in this who won't go down without a fight. People who can reach inside prison walls. You need to disappear." For the first time, I realized he might actually be worried about me, not just himself. "I'll be fine," I said. He shook his head. "You were always too stubborn for your own good." Then, surprisingly, he added, "You were also always the strongest of my children." I should have seen that. Before I could respond, the agents guided him into the car and shut the door. By evening, the story was everywhere. Banking dynasty arrested. Caldwell charity affront for massive fraud. Family betrayal, daughter brings down criminal empire. Agent Torres drove me to a hotel where I'd stay until things calmed down. My apartment wasn't safe now that my role was public. "The U.S. attorney wanted me to tell you they're offering full witness protection," he said. "New identity, new location, the works." "I'll think about it," I replied, watching the city lights pass by the car window. "For what it's worth," he added, "what you did today took incredible courage." I didn't feel courageous. I felt tired. Sad. Relieved. A mix of emotions I couldn't sort through yet. As their cars drove away, I stood alone on the steps of the empty house, feeling both victorious and completely hollow. The day after my family's arrest, I woke up and cried for 6 straight hours. The hotel room was quiet except for my sobbing. No phones ringing with reporters' questions. No agents needing more statements. Just me and the weight of what I'd done. I cried for the family I'd lost, not the criminals who were now in federal custody, but the family I'd always hoped we could be. The parents who might have loved me if money and power hadn't corrupted them. The siblings who might have supported me if they hadn't been taught to value status over everything. I cried for my nieces and nephews who would grow up visiting their parents in prison. For the family name that would forever be linked to crime and fraud. For the good memories now tainted by knowing what was happening behind closed doors. Around noon, Agent Torres called to check on me. "You're all over the news," he said. "They're calling you a hero." "I don't feel like a hero," I admitted. "They rarely do," he replied kindly. Later that day, the U.S. attorney called to tell me the case was even bigger than they'd thought. My family's arrest had led to others, bankers, politicians, business owners. A whole network was falling apart. "Your work will put dozens of criminals behind bars," he said. "You should be proud." But pride was hard to find beneath my grief. Don't just watch someone's pain. If you understand that victory can still hurt, comment, healing takes time below. After a week in the hotel, I was moved to a safe house while deciding whether to enter witness protection. The prosecutors were worried about threats from my father's criminal connections. I spent my days giving statements, reviewing evidence, preparing to testify. The case against my family was strong, but the legal process would take months, maybe years. In my free time, I read the news coverage. Most people praised my courage. Some questioned my loyalty. How could she betray her own family, they asked, not understanding that my family had betrayed me, and everyone who trusted them, first. 3 months after the arrests, I visited my mother in the detention center. She looked smaller without her designer clothes and perfect makeup. Older. Vulnerable. "They don't have my face cream here," was the first thing she said. Some things never changed. We sat across from each other at a metal table. Other families around us hugged and held hands. We kept our distance. "Why didn't you come to us first?" she asked. "Give us a chance to fix things." "Would you have fixed anything? Or just hidden it better?" She looked down at her hands. "I don't know." It was the most honest thing she'd ever said to me. As our visit ended, she surprised me. "You were always the strongest of all my children," she said. "I was hardest on you because you reminded me of who I could have been before." She didn't finish, but I understood. Before money and status became everything. Before the family business turned criminal. Before she lost herself. I didn't forgive her that day. But I understood her a little better. Back at the safe house, I started planning my future. I'd resigned from my job, too many connections to the case. I had offers from private firms, but that didn't feel right either. Instead, I looked into starting a nonprofit to help families affected by white-collar crime. Children who lost homes when parents went to prison. Communities damaged by fraud. People like me, caught between love and justice. 6 months after Thanksgiving, I received a letter from prison. My father had finally written the words I never thought I'd hear. My father's letter said 3 words: "You were right." No apology. No excuses. Just an acknowledgement that I had seen the truth when everyone else was blind to it, or choosing not to see. I read those 3 words over and over in my new apartment in Seattle. After much thought, I decided against witness protection. Instead, I'd simply moved across the country and started fresh. New city. New job. New name that I'd chosen for myself, not one handed to me by the government. It had been a year since that Thanksgiving dinner. A year of testimony, court appearances, and adjusting to a life without family. My father and brothers had pleaded guilty to avoid longer sentences. My mother was still fighting the charges. My sister had made a deal for minimal time by cooperating. The Caldwell name was now synonymous with fraud. The mansion had been sold to pay restitution. The bank was under new management. The charity had been dissolved, its remaining funds distributed to legitimate organizations. And me? I was building something new from the ashes. I'd started the Truth Foundation, a nonprofit that supported whistleblowers and families torn apart by financial crimes. We provided counseling, legal advice, and community. People who'd been through what I had, who understood the loneliness of standing up against loved ones who'd broken the law. If this story moved you, don't just sit there silently, hit subscribe and share it with someone who needs to hear that standing up for what's right is always worth it, even when it breaks your heart. My first book about financial fraud was being published next spring. I'd been asked to teach a course at a local college. I was healing, slowly but surely. I kept track of my family from a distance. My nieces and nephews sent me birthday cards, supervised by their guardians. My youngest brother called occasionally from prison, our conversations awkward but gradually warming. The others maintained their silence. Sometimes I dreamed about that Thanksgiving table. The moment before I dropped the envelope. The last second when we were still a family, however broken. In my dreams, I sometimes made a different choice. I put the envelope away. I smiled and took the insults. I protected the family's secrets. But then I would wake up and remember the victims. The people who trusted the Caldwell name and lost everything. The charities that never received their full donations. The communities that suffered while my family bought yachts and vacation homes. And I knew I'd made the right choice, no matter how much it hurt. On the anniversary of the arrests, I received another letter from my father. Longer this time. "I won't ask your forgiveness," he wrote. "But I want you to know that I see now what you saw all along. The wrong we did. The people we hurt. The family we could have been if we'd followed your path, instead of forcing you to follow ours." It wasn't exactly an apology, but from my father, it was revolutionary. I wrote back my first response to any of his letters: "It's never too late to do better." That evening, I hosted a dinner at my home. Around my table sat people who'd become my chosen family. Fellow whistleblowers. Colleagues from the foundation. Friends who knew my story and loved me anyway. As we passed dishes and shared stories, I realized something important. Family isn't always who you're born to. Sometimes it's who you choose, and who chooses you back. The Caldwell legacy of money and power was gone. But perhaps a new legacy could rise in its place, one of truth, integrity, and the courage to stand alone when necessary. After all, sometimes the family you choose is more important than the family you're born into.